Choosing the right budget categories can make or break your budget and be the difference between actually saving money and controlling your finances or just completely giving up. I've been a financial coach for over 15 years. We'll talk about the 18 essential budget categories that have to be in your budget, and we'll talk about how to split those into 4 category groups, make it even easier to see where your money is going. And then I'll talk about how to add in specific category groups over time to help you target problem spending areas. And of course, here at Lunch Money, we do all this, make this super simple. I want to show you exactly how that all works. So if you stay to the end of the video, I'll show you how to create those category groups, categories, and track everything in a super simple, organized way. All right, let's get right into it. Basically, you have your bills, your fixed expenses. You've got your variable expenses. You're going to have your savings buckets or sinking funds, and you're going to have your savings and debt repayment. So all the categories are going to fit into one of those 4 category groups. The first category group is fixed expenses. So these are your bills. They don't typically change every month. So number 1 is your shelter, your housing. This could be rent. If you're renting a home or an apartment, this could also be a mortgage payment, which could include, property taxes and everything in that single payment. But basically, you need to have that tracked as your number 1 category. That's usually the largest expense for most people. So that's your housing cost. Number 2 is going to be your utility costs. Now, this is, of course, keeping the lights on, right? This is your electricity bill. This could be your water bill, water, sewer, trash, if that's all in one. Some places have it that way. This could also include things like internet. I see internet and your cell phone as a utility. It's something that's required to operate your daily life. So make sure to include all those into your utility category. All right, number 3 is your insurance. So this is auto insurance, health insurance. This could be life insurance. This also could be homeowners insurance. Any type of regular monthly insurance cost, make sure it's added into that insurance category. The next one is going to be debt minimum payments. And I'm saying minimum on purpose here. This is not paying off debt. We'll talk about extra debt payments later. This is things like a car loan. This could be student loans, but it also could be credit card minimum payments. It could be a personal loan. Whatever debt payments you have, put them in here, but only the minimum payment. We want to track all of those things, but just at the minimum. The next category is going to be subscriptions and memberships. Nowadays, there's a bajillion of them, but this could be streaming services. It could be your gym. It could be web apps. It could be cloud storage, whatever that is. Make sure your streaming services that have a monthly cost to them are added into this subscriptions and memberships section. And then finally, childcare. Now, there's a lot of people that have childcare, and that could be daycare costs. It also could be tuition if you're sending them to school, or it could be aftercare, wherever those childcare costs are that are typically the same and recurring on a monthly basis. Make sure you get that added in as a bill. So those are all of your fixed expenses. The next section we're going to talk about is your variable expenses. These are the daily spending choices you make every day, and this can change month to month, and this truly is where you have the most control over your budget also. But these are the main categories you're going to want to track. So number 1 is groceries, right? You got to eat to live, and you go shopping. Make sure you have money set aside for groceries. This is for food you make at home, because we're going to have another separate category for other food, but groceries is your number 1. Number 2 is going to be the other food category, restaurants or dining out. This could be takeout. This could be DoorDash, any of those things where you're not making the food at home, you're not prepping it yourself. This is going to be a restaurant or a dining out category. The next one is transportation costs. So there are a couple of fixed transportation costs, and this could be your auto payment or it could be your car insurance. But outside of that, you've got gas, but you also might have like public transit costs or rideshare costs. You have car maintenance. Anything that varies month to month, make sure you just capture that in your transportation budget category. All right, the next one is shopping and miscellaneous. I sort of kind of group all of this together, but basically any type of shopping you need to do that's outside the grocery store. So this could be clothing, Amazon.com qualifies. This could be pet food. This could be household items. Whatever that shopping category would be, that is going to be another variable expense budget category. And then you have health and wellness. Now, this is doctor visits, this is prescriptions, any of those types of things where it goes toward your health and wellness. It could be supplements. All of that is going to be captured in that single category, health and wellness. Now, I'm not talking about bills. Like if you have a Like my kids have braces and there's a monthly recurring bill. That would go under fixed expenses. But this is any other variable expense like, oh, we had to visit the doctor or we've got a wellness check or whatever that is, that's going to be under the health and wellness category. All right, now we've got the entertainment and fun category. This is the best part of budgeting is being able to spend money on things you want to go to. This is maybe going to the movies or there's maybe the fair is in town or a little bit of local travel or you rent movies or whatever that thing is. Make sure you have money set aside for this. It could be date nights, right? This could be something that you get to go do. There's a cost for it, but you want to have fun with it. So that's going to go under the entertainment and fun category. And then finally, I like to have an other category. The other category sort of captures everything else. In my experience as a financial coach for over 15 years, when people try to track every little other category instead of just bucketing it, it just gets overwhelming. It's annoying. It's a lot of extra, oh, what should this be categorized as? Doesn't matter. Just put it under other and make sure you have enough set aside to catch all the rest of those expenses. All right, now that you got your fixed and variable expenses and categories set up, we're going to talk about sinking funds or savings buckets, as I like to call them. Basically, you're setting aside money for a larger expense later. And there's really two types of sinking funds. There's sort of the what's going to happen this year, and then there's the larger major things that we're trying to save for. So under the sinking funds category, I would call this annual bills. This is your homeowner's insurance or property taxes. This is life insurance if you pay that once a year. This is also things like Christmas or birthdays or local travel that you have coming up this year. So that's going to be all captured in the sinking funds category. Then you've got major purchases, right? This is saving for a home down payment. This is a car replacement fund or a new technology, get the new iPhone. Set aside money for those things, or maybe a large vacation, right? Maybe you want to go to Italy next year in 18 months. You got to start set aside money now for those larger major purchases. So there's really the sinking funds and the major purchases under this larger savings buckets category. And a quick little tip on that, and I've got a whole video I will show you. I'm going to have a little link pop up here, but you can automate this entire process. What I like to do is open a high yield savings account for each one of those sinking funds or major purchase goals, and then automate it. So $50 a month goes here, $75 a month goes here. And once the money is needed, the money is automatically there because you've set aside that money automatically straight from your paycheck. Boom, 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 boom. And all those things get funded in the background. Again, I will have a whole video up here on how that works. All right, and then finally, you have the investing in debt repayment category. So this is going to include things like your emergency fund, right? You should always have at least 1 month of expenses set aside in case of emergencies, but ideally you have 3 to 6 months of expenses depending on your situation. This helps with job loss or major medical or car issues that come up that cost a lot of money. Make sure you have that emergency fund set aside. Then we could talk about investing for your future. So this is things like opening a Roth IRA or funding your 401k at work. Make sure you actually set aside money within your budget to save and invest for your financial future. And then finally, extra debt repayments. This, I told you we're going to talk about this later. This is where you're going to start setting aside money to pay extra. What I recommend is to just pay the minimum payments on most of your debts and choose one that you want to put extra payments towards. So that's what this category would be, your extra debt payments. And say there's a credit card with $1,500 balance on it. You'll pay the minimum on all the other credit cards and personal loans and auto loans and things. And you'll take maybe an extra $500 a month. And within 3 months, boom, 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 you'll knock out that credit card debt, erase it. Now your minimum payments go down and then extra debt payment can start going toward the next payment. So that's what this category is extra debt repayments. So now that you have the 18 main categories, you might be thinking, okay, well, no, I want to track some other things. Listen, I get that. We'll talk about that in a second. But the first things first is make sure, again, you're using the 4 category groups. You've got your fixed expenses, variable expenses, you've got your savings buckets, and then you have your investment and debt repayments section. That helps you quickly see how much am I spending in each of these areas and where could I use some improvement and how much do I have left maybe for investment and debt repayments. This is a quick way to organize all of those budgets into subcategories. And then the next thing is once you have those categories, obviously you got to create the budget, but make sure you set realistic spending limits. Now, I always recommend going back and looking at your past spending. I call this the financial audit. And what you do is look at the last 90 days of spending. How much am I spending in each of these categories? In Lunch Money, we actually make that easy. If you connect your financial accounts, your bank accounts, credit cards, things like that, we'll pull in transactions over the last 90 days. And then you can just go in and look at the stats tab and look at how has my spending been by category. And then that's a realistic number to go, okay, this is about how much I'm going to spend in each of these areas. So make sure you look at your numbers and give a realistic budgeted amount to each of these categories. And then finally, I told you I'll show you how you can kind of dig in and find problem spending areas and then take care of that with a budget category. So if you've got your 18 essential categories, but maybe somewhere in there, maybe it's in the shopping, category, you're like, man, I always overspend this shopping category. I'm spending $800 a month and I don't know where it all goes. This is where you would take that one specific category, at least for an amount of time, and split out each of the types of shopping. So this could be Amazon.com. This could be Target. This could be clothing. This could be electronics. However you want to split that out. If you know there's a problem spending area, as you start to more detailed break down those budget categories, then you'll see, oh man, I spend a lot at Amazon.com. What is that? Then you start to look at your Amazon.com orders. Oh yeah, it looks like I'm just jumping on these flash sales, or I buy a lot of shoes, or like whatever that is. Then you can go, okay, now that I see the little more detailed broken out version, right? So this is where you go over the 18 categories, hyper focus on a couple of different specific categories where you break those out, target those problem spending areas, keep that on track. So maybe do this just for a couple of months, make sure you get your spending down. And then once you feel comfortable in that, you can collapse it back into just a generic shopping category. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't try to overtrack from the beginning. I would create these essential 18 budget categories, and then areas where you have problem spending. Maybe it is dining out. So maybe you want to go, okay, here's DoorDash versus this local restaurant versus, pizza delivered to my home. You could break those out into a separate category, track it for a couple of months, and then once you get that spending under control, collapse it back into just restaurants. So the idea is you only expand your budget categories when you're trying to focus on problem spending areas. I've seen this work really, really well for people where they don't want to be overwhelmed with 60 to 70 to 80 categories on spending, but they know there's a couple of problem areas. So we expand that out, maybe 20 to 25 categories, knock those things out, and then collapse it back. Because honestly, simplicity wins the day when we're talking about creating the proper amount of budget categories and tracking your spending. All right, I promise to show you how Lunch Money makes this really, really easy, where you can not only set up your budget categories, but you can set up those category groups to help keep things organized in a simple fashion. So as you can see here, I've got this Lunch Money app up, and I've got under the setup section here, you're gonna go setup and then categories, and this is where you can start to create these budget categories. You can create unlimited categories, of course, but you can go in here and start to customize them based on these 18 categories I talked about. So as you can see, I already kind of have this pre-set up. I do like to have the paycheck and income here and make sure you treat this as income. So that's the top of your budget. But then when we're talking about the expenses, I've got the 4 main category groups. And I did this by just hitting add a category group. And I'll get out of the way here. And so you can create, fixed expenses. You can give it a description, and then you can, do a couple of things. But what you could do down here is go, okay, I want auto insurance, and I want subscriptions, and all these things. And you could just add these already created categories and just add them right in to your budget. But since I've already created this, I'll show you those. So that's how you add a category group. And so I've got bills as what I call it. It's the same thing as I can literally just rename it here, fixed expenses, make it easy. Boom. So now I got fixed expenses. So we got housing, right? Utilities, insurance, debt minimum payments, subscriptions, and memberships, childcare and education. You can see I just put the same ones that we talked about. And you can do little notes in here too, so you know what's actually inside of them. So for debt minimum payments, I said credit cards, student loans, car loans, right? For utilities, you can say, water, trash, electric, internet, cell phone, right? So you can just quickly put notes in here and you can know exactly what it is. And the cool thing is you can see this line here. These are all under subcategories of fixed expenses. I'll show you, but when we get to the budget, the cool thing is it'll subtotal the amount that you budget in each of these categories, so you can quickly see, okay, my bills cost blank per month. It's really nice. So same thing, daily spending. I created groceries, restaurants, transportation, shopping and miscellaneous, entertainment, all these things here. And then you got savings buckets and goals. And so when I go to the actual budget, so I'm going to go to the finances section here, and we've got this really cool budget view that'll show you everything. So I'm going to jump ahead real quick to April. So we're just going to create the April budget. And so now you can see I've already got these collapsed, but boom, we've got bills, daily spending, savings buckets, and goals. And if you hit this little arrow here, now you can see here's all of our categories. And so I'm going to go down, boom, boom, boom. So a couple of cool things. One is you can just quickly set your budget. And then two, you'll see the subtotal come up here. So if housing is $2,500 a month and utilities, look, I love this right here. Last period's budgeted amount and the average spending during the last 3 periods. This is so powerful. So I'm budgeting a ton, but I'm only spending $120 a month on utilities. And so what I would hear, I could click either one of these and it'll auto budget. So I'm just going to put the higher number, boom, put that in here. And you can go down the line, right? Last period's budget, this, last period's budget, this. You could go down, it'll auto just create based on your actual spending. It's so powerful. I talked about going to your past spending and actually looking at how much did I spend in the past? How do I create the proper budget number? This is it right here. Same thing with subscriptions and membership. Maybe this is $1,200 a month. So now you can see really quickly, here's the subtotal. I'm going to spend $4,300 a month on fixed expenses. So it's so powerful because when you collapse this view, you'll be able to see all these. So I'm going to speed up the video here. You'll see me put all of the numbers in, and then we'll talk about how to manage this going forward. So I just filled out the rest of this, but as you can see, when you collapse it, you can actually see the totals of the category groups. So I can see, my bills, I spend about $4,300, and my daily spending, my variable expenses about $2,800, savings buckets, $1,000 a month is going away, and then I put about $2,000 toward my goals and extra debt repayments. So I like to see the totals here, which is really nice about the category groups. But again, as you can see, everything's filled in here. You can see all the details and easily track what's going on within Lunch Money. And then the final thing I wanted to show you is we actually have a Discord. And inside the show and tell section of the Lunch Money Discord, you can see people actually share their category setup. So you can go in here, and I'll get out of the way, and scroll down and see how people set up their categories, and then figure out, hey, do I want to set mine up in a similar way? So here's how somebody set up their categories. They have, consumable food, they've got experiences, they've got utilities, and they've got all these other category groups. So again, just to get you some ideas on maybe the 18 categories I created aren't your favorite, but you can use other people's ideas here inside the Discord to create your own. So as you can see, overcomplicating your budget doesn't actually help, and there's really only 18-ish categories that you need to put down and start tracking to take control of your money. And if you want to use Lunch Money and set it up like I showed you with those category groups and budget categories, we got a 30-day free trial. So if you just click the link below, you could sign up for Lunch Money, connect your financial accounts, and then go in that setup and create the category groups and categories that we talked about. And what's really cool is once you do that and you start to actually create numbers for your budget, we'll show you here's about your average spending for the last 3 months in that category, so you can get some realistic numbers and actually stick to the budget. So again, click the link below and you can sign up for Lunch Money and set up some categories that work for you. Now, I'd love to hear from you. These are my 18 essential categories after 15 years of financial coaching, but how do you set up your budget? What categories do you like to use? Is yours a little more complicated than what we talked about today? Or maybe it's even simpler. I know some people that literally just have fixed expenses, variable expenses, savings buckets, and saving for the future. That's pretty much it. So they literally just track the 4 main buckets, and that can be powerful as well. But I know people that also have a ton more categories. But I really think that simple is better, and that's what's going to get you results. But I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know how you love to set up your budget. Now, choosing the right budget categories is essential, but also setting up your budget in a way that works for when you get paid is important too. I created an entire video here for how to create a bi-weekly budget. If you get paid every other week, you can check out the video right here.